Wake up, 49ers fans. Great to have you here. It is your spot for your morning 49er conversation. Damon Bruce, Larry Krueger. We're brought to you by Sam's Chatterhouse. And Larry, on Monday, we were talking about losing to the Minnesota Vikings. And here this Wednesday, we're talking about losing Deebo Samuel for a handful of games. The annual Deebo's going to miss a few is upon us, and we haven't even reached week 3. So that happened early this year. Good morning.
Yeah, that was it, that meme that escalated quickly. Yeah, I mean, now the 49ers are going into week 3 without CMC for who knows how long, without Deebo probably for, I don't know. They said a few weeks. My guess is probably a month, right? Probably 3 games for sure, maybe 4. And, we're going to find out what Brock Purdy's made of, what Kyle Shanahan's made of, what this team is made of. And you know what? It's time for Brandon Ayuk to, he got his bag. It's time to show up. The first 2 games of the season, he was pretty much a non-factor. And I heard Brent Jones on the radio saying, this guy's got to step up, and there's no question about it, especially now with no Deebo, no CMC. You wanted the bag. You wanted to be the big dog. You're the big dog. Now it's time to perform. So we'll see what he brings on Sunday.
I do think he's going to be better. Like, I'm going to be one of the few guys actually not trying to say nasty things about Brandon Ayuk this week and say, I believe in him. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think he needed to play himself into game shape. He played more in week 2 than he did in week 1. In week 3, it's about who's going to answer that bell. There's a lot of guys who are healthy and ready to go to answer the bell. And I've got a crazy theory, Larry, that I'll run past you in a little bit about what you really need to have happen on a football team when you got an offensive concern. So we'll get into all that. But just tell me here, this is not fact. This is not science. Tell me if I'm projecting. Does it seem to you also, like it does to me, that the 49ers lead the world of sports in, I didn't even see that guy get hurt, and then the coach is telling me the next day he's going to be gone several games? Is it just me? Like, am I projecting some bias on the Niners with this? It feels like the injury I never saw occur comes back to haunt you in a Monday announcement that you didn't even expect. Like, oh, I didn't even know he was hurt. He's gone 2 weeks. What happened? Feels like the Niners lead the world in that category.
It does. I mean, it seems like every time, it seems like we're hit with surprise injuries every few weeks. Like, yeah, I didn't see anything, but this guy reported this. But, that's how rough this game is. I mean, these guys, they're banging bodies. It's massive collisions. It's all kinds of body parts and, being, thrown around. These guys weigh a lot. They're fast as heck. And it's just, the old mass and velocity and force, I mean, it's just like one of those things. This is a sport. It's 100% injury sport. My youngest kid is a freshman playing freshman football. I told him, I said, if you don't want to get hurt, don't play, because everybody gets hurt. So, if as long as you understand that going in, I think that's a contract that every football player makes with himself, is that, you know what, I'm going to play this game because I love it, and I'm going to get hurt because I'm playing this game. And if you're not willing to accept the pain, then you can't accept the glory. And that's it. I mean, it's a violent game. I will say this. I don't think the 49ers are like deficient as far as their medical practices, their training habits. I won't sit there and point at Kyle Shanahan's practice routine or regimen and say that they're doing anything to get hurt. It's just, the bounce of the ball, the luck of the draw. And that's the way it is. So they're going to have to overcome it. I mean, let's be honest though. The team they're playing this week doesn't want to hear about it, because the Rams are even more banged up than the Niners. There is no Puka. There is no Cup. There is no Steve Avila. There is no Johnny Johnson. There is no Joe Notaboom. I mean, they've lost a lot of guys.
Their kicker's got a mild groin strain. Their kicker's hurt. I mean, but it's the right team for the 49ers to run into. On top of that, it's all the, what do you want to call it, institutional knowledge that Kyle Shanahan has of the Rams. There is no team in this division that it feels like he's beaten with more frequency. I saw Dave Lombardi this morning tweeting about, how normally in order to guesstimate what kind of a crowd any stadium's going to have, they look at tickets sold in zip codes. Well, there are so many Niner fans who live in Los Angeles that it's all sorts of a false read. Like, sure, there's going to be 61% 49er fans. That's just 61% 49er fans who are traveling to the game. It is going to be a home game for the 49ers in Los Angeles against a beat-up team, against a wildly one-dimensional team right now. Larry, all the Rams can do is throw the ball. They're the second worst rushing attack in football through 2 weeks. And I think Kyren Williams is a talented player, but obviously it's not going in front of him. The offensive line is dinged up, and there's going to be no Cooper Kupp, no Puka Nacua. And this is, even with Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel unavailable, this is 100% on the 49ers stick. I don't think the line is moved. It's still 7, is it not? I mean, this should be.
I thought it was. I think it's 7 in the hook.
Okay,
I think it's 7.5. But you know what? Yeah, this is the get right game. This Shanahan dominates McVay. You're right. It's going to be 75% Niner fans there. You're also right. They don't have a great offense outside of passing, and now they don't have Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua. So. Unless Tyler Johnson, Demarcus Robinson, Tutu Atwell, and the rookie Jordan Whittington, come alive. And then we didn't even mention that the tight end Higbee's got an ACL, so they're leaning now. Colby Parkinson, the former Stanford player, is starting. I mean, Bo Limmer, who was a 6th-round draft choice out of Arkansas, nice player, but he's starting at center. Jonah Jackson, the left guard, is listed as out. So Logan Bruce, I believe, will start at left guard. Alaric Jackson. And it's a different spelling. It's Bruss. But I mean, they just don't have. This is they're facing the right team at the right time. Yeah. And if they can't handle them, this is going to be an moment.
And
if
I don't want to.
Somehow they don't win this game, it's going to be bad.
Right. Well, look, I know one of the things you want to talk about is the constant portion of the 49er fan base that wants Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan to reapply for their jobs with every defeat. But yeah, 2-1, you're right on schedule. You've won your first division game. You got through a McCaffrey and a Deebo injury, and everyone's going to be feeling pretty good coming out of a stadium that you're going to dominate. At 1-2, before we even get to week 4, you're going to have people looking for panic buttons, and it's going to become insufferable out in these 49er internet streets. We know that. We absolutely know that. So I do hope that the 49ers just don't allow that wick to be lit that could then blow up on you, because then, you get into any given Sunday mode, and falling to 1-3 with a home loss to the Patriots would send everybody searching for the fire alarm. So that can't happen. I think they're going to be 3-1. We talked about this on Monday. I think they're going to be 3-1. I think they got the right 2 opponents up for this bump in the road that is no McCaffrey and no, Deebo Samuel, who, again, even if things do go terribly wrong, there's so much football still left. You are going to get Ricky Pearsall at some point. At some point, you really hope maybe this is even a week where Jacob Cowing gets assimilated into this offense and becomes a little bit of a valuable piece. He hasn't had too many snaps from scrimmage. Maybe Guerrero gets more than 1 carry, and we start seeing what he can do. The 49ers that we're looking at this week will be much better a few weeks from now when you got Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Ricky Pearsall back, right? That's so.
Yeah, if those guys come back, and we'll see when they come back. But yeah, I mean, it's I don't know that McCaffrey's coming back. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, his injury could be a season-ending type injury. Well, they're not saying that right now.
Well, is anyone but you saying that? Have you heard a whisper of that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's an Achilles. So, yeah, it's Achilles tendonitis. It's considered very, very serious. Now, I've seen everything from there's no concern that somebody literally put out there's no concern of him rupturing the Achilles. Okay.
I've
well,
heard
that would be great news. That would be great news. But do you believe that? I don't.
That's
I don't
exactly what they said about Kevin Durant before he popped his Achilles in Toronto.
Yeah. And in this sport is so violent and he's so tightly wound. And, I mean, I would say you don't know what you're going to get out of McCaffrey. So then it's also a matter of, well, do you show precaution and do you hold him out longer, trying to nurse him along to the playoffs and Super Bowl when theoretically you're really going to need him. So I don't know. There's a lot of different ways it can go. My guess is if they win games, they might hold him out maybe a good portion of the year. If they lose games, they might rush him back sooner than they probably should. So, you know what I mean? That one scares me, Damon. I got to be honest. That injury scares the hell out of me because he's so valuable. He's such a key guy. Jordan Mason's great, but he's not McCaffrey. The Niners were 2 of 10 on third down. That was directly related to not having Christian McCaffrey. So the Niners are maybe going to have to get creative, either via trade, signing, or whatever. And maybe soon if Christian if the injury's serious. Yeah, nobody has announced, hey, Christian is going to miss the whole year. But I think we're naive if we look at an Achilles injury and don't, view it as just the sobering news that it is, and that it probably, I would say, I mean, I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but I would say he's probably got 6 weeks on it. Either he can play 6 weeks now, or he could play 6 weeks at some point, or you could hold him off to the final 6 weeks of the season. But that's my guess. And it's just a guess. But I'll say this, all the hand wringing over in the last 24 hours over Shanahan and Purdy is just that's criticism that's so out of place. I mean, I watched this game live and then I watched it on the All 22. I watched the condensed version about 6 times. I can give you a list of 10 or 12 things that were vitally they're more pertinent to the Niners are struggling conversation than Shanahan's got to go or Brock Purdy's not it. And I really think it's funny as hell because there are people out there who are just losing their mind complaining about Brock Purdy. And you would think that Brock Purdy was really, really bad. And then I went and looked at the game. And first of all, he's 18-5. Okay. He's 18-5, but that wasn't that's not related to the game. That's just his record. In this game, he completed 78% of his passes. Damon, there's only like 5 or 6 guys in all of the NFL who completed over 75% of their passes in week 2. Geno Smith, Gardner Minshew, Kyler Murray, Jaden Daniels, surprisingly enough, and Purdy. And there's one more. Oh, and Jalen Hurts, 77%. So those 6 quarterbacks completed over 75%. So he's one of 6 quarterbacks in the league to complete a high percentage. He also threw for 319 yards. Only him and Geno are the only quarterbacks in week 2 to complete 75% and throw for 300 yards. So I get it. He held the ball too long. He turned the ball over twice. They were 2 for 10 on thirds. They lost the game. They didn't score enough points, and he's got to take responsibility for that. But to me, when I watch this film, I would blame Ayuk, total non-factor. I would blame a punt block. I would blame a muffed punt. I would blame an offensive line that I thought looked totally and utterly confused by Brian Flores' blitz packages. I would blame 5 or 6 bad miscommunications on the back end that resulted in touchdowns and first downs and all kinds of big plays. I would blame Collins and Hargrave, who were complete zeros, despite the fact that they, on paper, should have kicked all kinds of ass. And instead, they got their ass kicked and did nothing. I blame Devondre Campbell, who is clearly not Dre Greenlaw. I blame Leonard Floyd, who was awesome in week 1 and a complete no-show, non-factor in week 2. I will blame the 49ers at safety where they cannot cover. And I'll say this, I'll blame the receivers collectively as getting zero separation almost all day long on passes that were made. There was only 2 that I saw where the receiver was actually open, like truly, 3-4 yards in the clear. There were other times where Ayuk, when I watched the all 22, got separation, Damon, but the ball didn't come his way because of the timing and where Brock was and that kind of thing. But let me just say one thing. All this talk about Shanahan, all this talk about Purdy, Shanahan's one of the best at what he does. Purdy's at one of the best at what he does. The real problem here, and the problem the Niners have to address, not tomorrow, today. I mean, literally today, is they don't have a nickelback worth a damn coverage-wise. They're on the verge of moving, I think, Demo Lenore from the slot to the outside and starting the rookie Renardo Green at nickel. And they don't have a free safety who can cover. They're working out safeties and corners and DBs, looking for that. Jair Brown, great player, can't cover. Hufanga, great player, can't cover. George Odom, great special teamer, can't cover. We'll find out about Mustafa. They don't have a safety who can cover. So I think what you're going to see, Damon, is you're going to see them take Renardo Green and move him into the slot corner and maybe even in certain situations, the free safety role. That's what I think you're going to see. I really think you're going to see it like maybe right away, like maybe this week against the Rams, maybe not for a couple weeks, but Renardo Green is going to be replacing Isaac Yiadom for the faults that Isaac Yiadom showed on this last film.
Can I quote you to you? I'm gonna quote Larry Krueger to Larry Krueger. Forget about what they're saying. Look at what they're doing. They worked out 3 corners yesterday.
Right.
They brought in 3 corners to work out yesterday. So yeah, I think that they are absolutely
3 slot corners.
They're thinking the same thing you are. The only thing that I'm going to do in your criticism is tweak the word can't in a few instances to didn't. I think there are guys who can cover. I also think there are guys who had bad games. Like, I know Mooney Ward is someone you can throw out and really not worry about in any football game. He had his worst game of the year, maybe the worst game with the 49ers. Like you said, a lot of miscommunication there.
Yeah.
I think that Odom and Jair Brown are guys who can cover, but they can't cover Justin Jefferson. And
well, yeah, I mean, it was a great play.
Yeah, you can't ask them to do that again. And that is a Brandon Staley, why are you here type of question, right? Brandon Staley is here to smooth out that back end communication. Nick Sorensen, I think he learned an awful lot, hopefully, in what went wrong in that game, and will apply it going forward. But you're right. They are looking for more bodies in that backfield already. And it's a little too early in the year, but this is what happens when Ambry Thomas broke his forearm. Ambry Thomas was going to be playing on the team this year, Larry. And they're a little looking to replace him. Can it be Yiadom? Can it be, Rock Yassin?
And Yiadom made big plays. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Yiadom made 2 fumble recoveries that saved their bacon last week. But that's secondary. When you see the Niners, I really believe this. The Niners worked out 3 slot corners. Who's their slot corner? Demo. Who's their backup slot corner? Renardo. I think what they're getting ready to do is move Demo outside, Renardo to Demo's spot, Yiadom to the bench, and probably add a backup slot corner with one of these other guys that they worked out, or maybe somebody else that they like. But I think they'll add a slot corner, promote Renardo from number 2 slot corner to number 1 slot corner, and promote or move Demo from slot corner to outside and move Yiadom probably to the bench. That would be my guess.
We're on to something. We'll come back to it. But you said the word promote, which made me think of Sam's Chowder House, Larry. Let's show the good people of the world who are worried about slot corners how little they need to be worried about lunch or dinner should they go down to Half Moon Bay to go to our fabulous sponsor, Sam's Chowder House, and here they come. Look at the big hitters. Look at the lobster roll. Then go ahead, look at the paella, and don't turn away yet. because I want you to look at the Cioppino. Look at all that waiting for you at Sam's Chowder House, Half Moon Bay, an iconic restaurant, the perfect kiss between land and sea and restaurant and ocean. Larry, get her done at Sam's Chowder House.
Oh, it's the best. I mean, first of all, I see a slot corner sitting there on the patio. Wait, there's a slot corner sitting there at the bar. Look at all those future slot corners. Look at the lobster roll. We give that to whoever covers well next week. The paella. Oh, the paella. But, I'll say this. The Cioppino, amazing. Oh, look at that. That's it right there. Picture yourself as those people walking on the beautiful strand of sand right there in Half Moon Bay. One thing you got to remember if you're not from here, we have summer, but then we have, the Indian summer, the late summer, which is, September, October. So when the rest of the country is really starting to kind of get cold and chilly, and you'll see it when you watch like Big Ten 9 a.m. football games on Saturday, Purdue's playing Indiana, and all the people are starting to, right now, right, Damon? You were there. It's starting to get a little cooler. It's the 18th of September. Well, here we've got, starting right now, we've got another month, maybe 6 weeks of just 70. It's going to be 95. It's going to be 95 in 3 days. It's going to be, it's going to be between 75 and 95, basically between now and like the first week in November. And you know what? That's when you want to go to Sam's Chowder House in the fall. Maybe you go down and see Pastorino and Pastorino's farms. You get your pumpkin down there, and you go walk around, get your. Make a day of it. Take the kids to the beach. If you got little ones like Damon's got, you bring them to the beach. I mean, kids in the beach are just like made for each other. You lay a blanket. You sit there. You listen to some music, and you kids play in the waves, and then you pack it all up, put it in the car, and say, let's go have a beautiful seafood dinner, sit on the patio, and enjoy some Sam's Chowder House. It is an incredible day. I would dare anybody to go have a day like this and then say, you know what? No, it wasn't that great. No. It's going to be that great. The experience. That's really what it is. It's the experience.
I think you just invented a segment for Mondays. I know people give out game balls. They give out helmet stickers. We're going to give out lobster rolls. The player of the week is going to get our lobster. Larry, you get to give away a lobster roll each week, and I'm going to give away a lobster roll to a 49er each week. And so that way on Monday, you'll know who played well, and you don't have to worry about hand-wringing over whatever comments you read about how Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy are the sole epicenters of everything that could ever go wrong in a football game. It's like the offensive line isn't even there. It's as if the defense had no responsibilities at all that entire day. I
give my Oyster Rockefeller Award to
look at it.
And the Rockefeller of the week goes to
the Rockefeller is getting the job done so well. Sam's has not brought in other oysters to work out this week. That's how well their Rockefellers are playing right now. So they're not bringing in new slot Rockefellers to see if anyone can improve.
Look at Monty here. Now he's advocating smoking a J in the beach and then going up and feeding your munchies at Sam's. Whatever way you got to. You know what? If I'm looking at a family outing and you're looking at a J with a couple buddies, you know what? God bless us all. You're all welcome. You're all welcome at Sam's Chowder House. Come one, come all, and get yourself, as Joseph Sullivan says, the lobster roll.
The lobster roll, baby. The lobster roll.
Look at this one. Barry Ford. I wish I could get some of that good Sam's Chowder House food overnighted to Memphis.
That's what I'm talking about, Barry.
Yeah,
that's seriously what I'm talking about. Okay, what I don't understand, and this is what you and I were sort of talking about, we wanted to get into a little bit before today's show started, is the constant criticism of one guy, two guys, when there are actually other things to criticize. Legitimate issues to bring up seem to be shelved just to come back to the old trope of Kyle can't win the big one and Brock Purdy's not worth it. It's like everyone keeps coming back to those two talking points the minute anything goes wrong. And it is Like I said, I just wish they won the Super Bowl, not for the parade, not for the Yorks, not even for Niners fans, but just for me, so I could stop talking about the same two damn things all the time. You can't win the big one. You can't win the big one. You can't. I mean, what could we actually talk about if we didn't have to return to that point once a show, every show, for all the shows we could ever host? Imagine if we could just eliminate that, right?
Well, there's such a it's such a joyless endeavor. I forget who it was this week, but somebody basically kind of called it out like, hey, people need to just pump the brakes a little bit. I mean, it's like, there's, I've been watching football for, since 1975. Nobody's gone outside of the 72 Dolphins. Nobody's run the table. You're going to lose games. Even the greatest Niner teams of all time. I mean, the 84 Niners were 15-1, I believe. There were so many great years. They were 14-2. They lost 2 games. They lost. And now the NFL's got more parity than ever, all kinds of rules that lend itself to exactly that. And so, I think you're going to see, there were a lot of good teams that lost. Baltimore's 0-2. Baltimore may fall to 0-3 this week. There's a lot of good football teams that have lost. The difference between, the distance between winning and losing in this league is not very much. A couple turnovers. 49ers, and I'll say this. I think the one thing nobody ever talks about, have you noticed that the Niners, how long have we been, can you remember back? When was the last time the Niners got their doors blown off? When was the last time the Niners just got cooked, where they really were just destroyed? Where it's like the fourth quarter was just, for shits and giggles, because they were blown out in 3 quarters. When was the last time you saw them blown out?
The Dolphins game where everything that could go wrong did go wrong, right?
Yeah. But that was
Brian Flores.
Ryan Fitzpatrick. It was Brian Flores. And it was 3 years ago, 4 years ago. It was a number of years ago that they lost that. They got destroyed.
Right.
The Brian Allen game.
The Ravens, clipped their wings hard on Christmas.
Okay. Ravens on Christmas was a good one. That's a good one.
That's about it.
That's about it. They're literally in all these games. I don't know. I think Shanahan had a great game plan in this one. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of the run game in this one. I would have liked to have seen, a little bit more. I don't really have a problem with the game as much as when Purdy dropped back to pass. It seems like he only had guys that had defenders draped all over him. He made a number of the one thing about Brock Purdy, if the Niners don't get better separation, he is going to turn the ball over. Why? Because he throws the 50-50 ball and allows his receiver to fight for it. And if the coverage is right there, he's still going to throw that ball. So Niner receivers better get used to catching it in a crowd or fighting for it or knocking it down, because he's gonna give them a shot at the 50-50 ball, which is all receivers typically want. He's not going to be shy about putting it out there. So I would imagine we're going to see more turnovers coming his way because there's no separation. Debo doesn't separate. They're all over him. Ayuk doesn't separate. Cowing separates, doesn't get on the field. Kittle does not separate. McCaffrey separates, is not on the field right now. So they don't have a lot of guys. Ronnie Bell, I don't know that we can have a Ronnie Bell on this team when you don't have guys that separate. I almost feel like you have to have some speed, and that, you want a route runner, you got a route runner. You got these other guys that are route runners. You can't have a Ronnie Bell slow guy. I think you got to replace him with a burner, with a speed guy. I think they got to get some speed on the field. They're very, think about it this way, Damon. They knew they needed to score twice, and they still took 10 minutes to score. So even when they're going fast, even when they're trying to hurry up, they don't have the kinds of speed weapons that can give them that big play ability that like the Dolphins have and some of the other teams in the league have. So that to me is a problem. I think they really need to look at trying to add some dynamic speed, whether that's cowing or Garendo in some capacity. Maybe it's Terrace Marshall, who's on the practice squad, who runs in the 4-3s. Thanks to Savage here for that one. But yeah, they need some speed. And we can sit there and talk about Purdy and Shanahan and Purdy, but the Ayuk's a non-factor. And the offensive line looked confused, and I didn't see any real separation. And you got one running back that you can lean on because they don't trust Taylor, and they shouldn't trust Garendo. So, it's scary how much this team is leaning on Jordan Mason right now.
Yeah, it's a really good thing that they have him. And I see that there's also talk about, well, they need to go out and look for another back. What, are we just going to pretend that Patrick Taylor's not on this team? Like, why is he on this team if he's not going to be considered as somebody who could go out and actually, play for the Niners? Like they did give you a roster spot. And look, Garendo absolutely missed a hole. It's when you see the all 22 of the hole that Garendo ran to instead of didn't run to. Yeah, I could see why a coach would be like, get him the fuck out of here. But at the same time, you can't do that to a player. Like the Niners need to have a little bit of conviction in some of their choices. We didn't ask you to select Jacob Cowing. We didn't ask you to select Isaac Garendo. You guys did that. You saw something in them. And so get something out of them. Get something out of them. Jacob Cowing should be running 5 plays this week in practice, just 5 plays where this is your play. You're going to come in and you're getting the ball on this play. You're lining up here. You are the primary. This is your play. So just perfect these 5 plays. These 5 plays are the 5 plays we're going to ask you to run and really depend on you for, and just do it. Like have some, sometimes you got to force, you got to force the square peg in the round hole. And you guys selected the pegs to fit the holes. So, let's see what you got. You do not have the luxury to wait for perfection any longer. You're going to have to take pretty good when you can get it. And we don't know if Isaac Garendo might have turned his next carry into a pretty good carry because Kyle gave up on him at the speed of light. There is no backup.
I don't think he gave up. I don't think he gave up. He just got. Yeah, first of all, this kid is not a running back. And I don't know how many times I have to say it before people will take me seriously when I say that. What I mean by that is that running back is an instinctive position. Okay? That's why they don't just take guys who are fast. Have you noticed this? Teams never do this. They never take their super fast corner or who's like 5th on the depth chart and say, you know what, he's a running back. Or their super fast linebacker, their super fast safety, say, you know what, he's a running back. Because running back is about instincts. And you can't just say somebody's a running back because they're big and fast. And Garendo was a high school wide receiver. He only started 1 game in college. He played at Wisconsin. He played at Louisville. He only started 1 game. Why did he only start 1 game? Because he doesn't have running back instincts. Running backs have sharp cuts. He has rounded cuts. Running backs have vision. He runs up the back of his offensive lineman. He's big and he's fast and he's a useful piece on special teams as a kick returner. You might be able to use him as a fullback where you throw it to him in the flat. And he's obviously big enough to block and stonewall blitzers and that kind of thing. But if you think you're going to put Isaac Garendo on the field and he's going to be a running back in the purest form of the word, no, he's not. He is not a running back. I've seen enough. I've watched enough. Now that one people are like, dude, it was 1 carry. No, it was 1 carry for you. You have a job every day. I'm there at practice. Now he was hurt a lot in camp this summer, but we saw him in mini camp a lot, and he did a lot of these same things. He runs up the back of his lineman. There's the hole. He doesn't see the hole. He's not an instinctive, natural running back. He's an athlete. He's a big, fast athlete. I think he's a receiver who probably should be used as a fullback out of the backfield. And he's a mismatch guy and he's a kickoff return guy, but he is not a running back. And Shanahan, I said, what position is he? He's like, he's a running back. I'm like, I'm looking at him, I'm looking at Kyle going, okay, well, you should know, right? You and your father have picked all kinds of running backs out of late rounds. Like, people kind of like defer to Shanahan and Kyle and Mike, and say, oh, you guys just know running backs. I'll bet you $1 this guy's not a running back. I mean, I don't see it. I don't see the sharp cutting ability. I don't see the vision. I don't see any of those things that make a running back a running back.
Well, you know who is a running back? Matt Breida. So, go pick him back up. Go circle back to Matt Breida. Where is he? Is he on anybody's practice right now, or is he just on them streets?
No, and even if he was, Damon, you can take him. So, if he's on somebody's practice squad, you could still take him.
But you got to elevate.
But he's not.
He's taking a
roster. You got to put him on your active roster.
Right.
But I mean, Breida, I think, would be the name that makes the most sense. I think that's the name that makes the most sense. And he was in here this summer. Now, Greg Papa really likes the Keyshawn Vaughn, and I do too. Keyshawn Vaughn, was Mr. Football in the state of Tennessee when he was coming out of high school. He was a great player, and then he went to Vandy. He had a great career. He transferred from Illinois to Vandy, but he had a great career at Vanderbilt, and he's a good back. And I'm watching him in practice, and I'm thinking to myself, now this guy's got instincts. This guy's got cutting ability. This guy's got vision. He's a back. He's a choice. They can go to him. I would say it's going to be either going to be Mason, or they're going to skip and then they're going to skip Garendo and Taylor and go right to Keyshawn Vaughn. That would be my guess. But they probably need to trade for somebody.
Why is Patrick Taylor on this team then? Why are you wasting that's
a good question.
Just wasting a roster spot. You should
I liked what I saw from him.
I'm sorry?
I liked him in the preseason. I mean, only played that one game. I liked what he looked like, and I talked to him. I did an interview with him the other day for 7 or 8 minutes in the locker room. Interesting guy, gives you thought-provoking answers and that kind of thing. We'll see. I thought he looked good enough at that final preseason game to be utilized from scrimmage, but his lack of usage in the second game makes me wonder if they don't view him the same way. Maybe
I mean, isn't that a little early in the year to give up on a guy that you just went through 6 weeks of practice with? That's what I guess I don't understand.
Was he active?
There's enough belief in a guy to have him make the team. You cut other guys at the expense of retaining this guy, and then before you even use him, he's essentially given up on. It feels a little weird.
No, I don't. It's not giving. You're not giving up. You're just using him as an athlete, as a kick returner, as a receiver, and not as a hand it to him and think he's going to pick and slide and find a hole and that kind of thing. I mean, I'll say this from being around the 49ers. I think the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan hold their running backs to the highest standard I've ever seen running backs held to. What I mean by that is Shanahan will go watch the film and he will decide in his mind what that was blocked for. And if it was in his mind, if it was blocked for 4 yards and you got 3, you fucked up. If it was blocked for 5 and you got 4, you screwed up. So he's a very critical evaluator of running back play. And so a guy who's that critical of running back play is going to be totally look the other way as some guy runs into the butt of his guard and, doesn't see holes. And, what I mean? So right. I think that we were all the
thing. One of our
he was never going to get a long leash.
One of our most good point by Jacob Gordon for sure. Bobby Turner, he holds him to that standard too. Bobby Turner's excellent at his job. One of our most loyal, Mike Baker, says, "Look at how long Kyle sat Mason."
I know,
Jordan.
Mason has instincts.
He's the second leading rusher in the NFL after 2 weeks. He looks like he's been a starting running back for 2 years in this league. He started 2 games. He's essentially been a factor in 2 games. This is the first time he's been given carries of significance, not just like garbage time carries, since becoming a pro with the Niners. So he can obviously get the job done. You want to say the process is in place to where when you do finally give that guy the opportunity, they succeed. yeah, I just don't think that this team, as it's functioning right now, presents Kyle you have the opportunity to wait until everything is perfect before you start playing guy X. There's a little bit of a accelerated timeline based on some injuries and just the way that this, the year, everything about this damn year was supposed to be smooth. Nothing about this year has been smooth so far. I mean, this was supposed to be a smooth off season. It was a smooth entry point into a schedule that definitively gets rougher starting week 6. And it was all supposed to be smooth. There's been nothing smooth so far. And, again, 49ers red zone. Nepo coach. Well, look around football and you'll see an awful lot of sons of coaches that you used to know in this league. But Kyle Shanahan doesn't have the job because he was the son of a successful head coach. He has the job because he is a successful head coach. There are things to criticize him about. And as a matter of fact, I want to share one of the most interesting, well-thought, rational comments any one of my videos has ever produced, Larry. I took a screenshot of it. Okay. I took a screenshot of it to share on this show. And I even said, I'm going to share your rational approach to Shanahan criticism with the audience. And maybe here's the thing. If you have Kyle Shanahan criticism that is rational, not only do we want to hear it, let's discuss it. If your point is Kyle Shanahan is trash can emoji, you don't belong in the discussion. Just watch the fucking show. Okay.
Well, I don't know. It's like, do you want to hear your buddy complain about his wife? No. So I really don't want to hear people complain about a coach. If it's like, if you're going to leave her, then okay, I'll listen to your complaints. If you're just going back to her, then shut the fuck up and hit the ball. You know what I mean? Shut the fuck up and hit the ball. Otherwise, we all have problems. Yeah, she's a pain in the ass. Deal with it. You know what I'm saying? Is Kyle perfect? No. But who you got? Somebody better?
None of them are.
You got somebody better? Go for it. Who do you got? Throw a name out. I don't listen to Kyle Shanahan bashing when the guy's 35-15 in the last 3 years, and you know what? I don't have a great memory. It's some of the things that in the past are eluding me, and there's things that I used to remember that I don't remember, but I still remember the Jim Tomsula era, and I can still remember looking at John Lund as the Niners defense gave up 7 consecutive 100-yard rushing performances in the Chip Kelly era, and it's like, you know what? If I couldn't remember those things, maybe I'd be ripping the shit out of Shanahan. But I kind of do remember those things. So when I hear people ripping the shit out of Shanahan, I'm like, you know what? Come up with a better alternative or shut the fuck up.
Right.
Is that what do you think of that, Damon? What do you think of that kind of, it's not that I'm with you. I mean, if you have a legitimate beef on Shanahan, that's something real, bring it. Let's discuss it. Let's dissect it. But this just like, he sucks. It's so lowbrow and it's so without thought, because if I take you at your word that I agree with you, he sucks. You're right. I'm wrong. He's out. Now what?
Right. Well, again, it's
what?
Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr.
It's the Steve Kerr. What do you think of that?
Tell me that you weren't here for Mike Montgomery. You just did. If you think
I like Mike Montgomery, but you tell me you weren't here for the Dave Cowens era, or some of the donkeys they've had as coaches. Yeah, you're bitching about Steve fucking Kerr. You're bitching about Kyle Shanahan. Literally, there's 15 teams in the league that would fire their coach tomorrow if they could get those guys. And you have them, and you're like, we're only getting to the winner's circle, near the winner's circle. We're not in the winner's circle. Okay. That's why, guess what? That's why they throw $250,000 to $500,000 parades in cities that have cost overruns for days, because it's special. It's really, really special when you win a title. And that's why it's rare. It's hard to do.
So, Larry, Would you like to hear
Steve Young won one?
Would you like to hear a well-thought critical of Kyle Shanahan?
Yes.
Critique by an adult. Would you like to hear something that an adult who has thought about something has said? It's not Kyle trash can emoji. Here we go. This is from KK45. Don't even know who that is, but KK45. I hope you have liked and subscribed to both channels because we need smart observations like yours on both of our channels. Thank you very much. Here it is, Larry. We're going to go easy on Kyle Shanahan because he is allowed to have a bad game once in a while. But the main concern for me is that he keeps losing to the same people. He's now 0-2 against Brian Flores of Minnesota. He's 0-4 against Jim Schwartz of Cleveland. He's 0-5 against Steve Spagnuolo of Kansas City, and 2 of those games being Super Bowls and blowing 10-point leads. That concerns me. Year after year, losing to the same teams shows a pattern. Okay, let's talk about that. That is well thought, well reasoned, supported with statistics criticism of Kyle Shanahan. And the only thing I have to say is you're right. There are some coaches in this league who just seem to have other coaches' numbers. And unfortunately for Kyle, it seems like coaches of teams that he runs into in the postseason or in the regular season, you know, he's Steve Spagnuolo's got his number. Jim Schwartz has got his number.
It's funny though. A lot of the argument gets, this argument gets worked over both ways. It's like, do you like, who would you rather have, Kyle or McVay? And people be like, dude, McVay's won the Super Bowl. Okay, but Kyle owns McVay and is like 9-1 against him or whatever. So, is it about the Super Bowl or is it about your head-to-head record? Kyle owns McVay. But you'd rather have McVay because he's won the Super Bowl, and Kyle hasn't won the Super Bowl.
There it is. So, there's McVay's record against Kyle.
I think there is 2-9, 2-9. Wow. And I think McVay. When they were both free agents because they both were hired the same year, I was a McVay guy. I was the guy yelling, "Man, I'd hire McVay. I'd hire McVay. I'd hire McVay." So I can't say that I'm surprised that McVay has been good. McVay is good. And he's a smart guy. All I'll say is Kyle is not a perfect coach. And he's got flaws. There's no question about it. I think there's not only that, I think I could point to common denominators of the losses. A lot of times he gets too pass happy. In a lot of these games, if he had run the ball, a little bit more, they probably would have had a different outcome. I looked at Jim Harbaugh in that era as, man, they sometimes would run it too much and not pass it enough. I look at Shanahan as kind of the opposite. He gets kind of pass happy. And he's also a totally different play caller when they have a lead and when they're behind. He's a very impatient guy. I think that he would be a guy that would be very interesting to watch play cards in like Vegas. Because he seems like as soon as you get, like he'll run the ball. He'll come out in the first half, 0-0 game. He'll run the ball. And he'll run the ball sometimes into a wall and punt. Okay. But man, if the opposing offense goes up 7 or 10 or God forbid 14, fuck the run. It's time to air it out, baby. We're passing. It's like, Kyle, it's still late first quarter. You're down 10, but you can still run the ball. He will abandon the run for a guy who wants to establish the run and everything's predicated on the run. He will abandon the run when he falls behind on the scoreboard, and he's not nearly as effective a play caller, it seems, from behind as they are when they're ahead. That's what bothers me. It seems like when they're behind, it's like all of a sudden it just seems like there's nothing in the arsenal. When they're ahead, it's like he's got reams of options.
They're front runners.
They feel like front runners.
Oh, I don't know if it's fair.
They feel like front runners.
Well, here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with. There's nothing
some
wrong
days
with
they are, some days they are.
There's nothing wrong with being a front runner as long as you're running in front. I mean, there really You know, it's actually a really good thing to be. I think Kyle, as a coach, is a much better boa constrictor than he is like a cobra that strikes, right? He will get a game under control and then he just wrings the life out of it. It's a lot easier than having to be the quick coiling snake that'll come up and bite you real quick. The Niners don't even have a hurry up offense. I don't know if they have a no huddle offense. If they do, I haven't really seen it. And you might have pulled it out in you're losing a football game on the scoreboard and on the clock in Minnesota, but we didn't see them necessarily speed up or hurry up. It's just,
and yet their opponent did. Their opponent, I mean, O'Connell used tempo. It is interesting in that Kyle only used tempo really with the 49ers in the early years. I wonder if he feels that tempo is something you do when you don't have the guys. When you don't have the bullets, you play all kinds of games with tempo. Maybe he's a believer of that, because since they have upped their roster and increased the talent, they don't do jack with tempo. They don't slow it down. They don't speed it up. They don't seem comfortable speeding it up, which I kind of think you should run tempo in every game just so you get used to running tempo, just so you get used to playing fast, because when you need to play fast and efficient. And it's like all of a sudden their efficiency goes downhill. They start making mistakes, penalties, bad decisions, bad play calls. It's like they're totally affected by the scoreboard, more so than you would ever believe they should be. I think that's a criticism that's fair.
Can I get zen? Can I get philosophical here for a minute?
Sure.
This is going to sound like I've been in JJ Rader's ganja jar. This is going to sound a little loopy. Okay, but I'm going to say it anyways. At the risk of sounding loopy and corny, I'm going to say it. Kyle needs to look at that game clock and stop considering it his opponent and start considering it one of his teammates.
That's a great one.
I think
you're right, Damon, because the people that play keep away from Kyle also, like, you don't even have to put up points. If he just feels that at the point of the game that they're at, that they haven't scored enough, he loses patience with the run game, and it's like air Kyle. And I don't think he's got the team for that. I don't think they don't have Jalen Waddle. They don't have Tyreek Hill. They can't really score fast. When they need to. I mean, this game against the Vikings, I mean, look at this game. The 49ers were down, Damon. They got the ball. They were down 20-7. They were down 20-7. They were on the verge of getting their doors blown off, but Fred Warner pops out the ball from Aaron Jones, and Yadam falls on it at the 1, right? I thought it was in the end zone, but it was actually at the 1. So the Niners get the ball back, and they're still down. They're down 20-7. So they're down 2 scores, and they get the ball back, and they have to go 99 yards, but it takes them 12 plays to go 99 yards. It was 4 runs, 8 passes. I mean,
here's the thing. Of course,
you're running the ball 4 times when you're down 2 scores in the fourth quarter, and then Minnesota got the ball back, and they couldn't stop them, and that was the ball game. But I think Sorensen's got to answer some tough questions for that last drive and some of the terrible communication on the couple of those plays.
Here's the thing, though. I don't care if it takes you 12 plays to go 97 yards. It's a lot of yards. It's 12
99 yards.
That sounds about right to me, actually. 12 plays to go 99 yards, unless you're hitting a big bopper. The problem is the time it took you to run those plays. Say whatever you want about Chip Kelly and his bad offenses, and all he was tempo, but he at least had some tempo. Chip Kelly would run 12 plays in 4 minutes of clock time. It takes Kyle 7.5 minutes of clock time to run 12 plays.
You're huddling, you're running, you're acting like it's the second quarter. Hurry the fuck up. I mean, that's the way I saw it, because when they gave the ball back to Minnesota after they scored, now it's 20-14. So they're down 6. But they gave the ball back to Minnesota. There were still 10-16 left in the fourth quarter when Minnesota ran their first play on the next drive. And the Niners couldn't stop them on third down. They couldn't stop them on 3rd and 7 from the 33. They couldn't stop them on 3rd and 8 from the 41. They couldn't stop them on 3rd and 2 from the 22. So it was over then. They kicked the field goal, 2-score game. And then, Purdy led them down the field again. And Moody kicked the field goal to make it a 1-score game, but they didn't get the onside kick. Ball game. Thanks for coming. I'm just saying, it's like you're going to lose if you either don't score fast. You're going to lose if you don't score. You're going to lose if you score slow. The only way you're going to win is if you score fast. And yet they still go 12 plays. And it's like, and I agree that doesn't sound bad to go the distance, the whole length of the field. But that's what I'm saying. You have to have big play ability. You got to have, like for this week against the Rams and going forward. I know he muffed a punt. I don't give a shit. I want to see Jacob Cowing on the field for his, space creating, field stretching capability. That's what I want to see. I want to see Jacob Cowing on the field. He's the only speed they have. They don't have any other speed. So speed is, there's a reason that all these people at the combine are like, whoa, the guy ran 4.2. There's a reason that the Chiefs traded up for Xavier Worthy, because when you have vertical speed, teams have to defend you vertically, and you're stretching them this way. And if you stretch them enough, guess what? Kittle's wide open underneath, and Debo's wide open underneath. Why? Because Xavier Worthy ran off the defense and took the top off. They don't have that guy. They got JJ's running 4.7. They got Kittle. It's literally when JJ and Kittle are on the field at the same time, that's like a 2 tight end alignment.
Right. The reason why Brian Flores was able to sit on the middle of the field in the Minnesota game was because Kyle didn't have anything to attack but the middle of the field. So it was a little predictable and easy, and the Vikings took advantage of it. They really did. And look, there's an awful lot of talk surrounding the Debo injury. Who's got to be the guy that answers the bell? Ronnie Bell, Jacob Cowing, Jawan Jennings. Who's it going to be? Elevate Taylor from the practice squad. It's going to be him. It's going to, who's it going to be? Who's going to be the guy who comes in and makes the absence of Debo less felt? And that's an interesting conversation to have. I think I got the right answer, though. It's the defense. Guess who's not hurt? Guess who's not hurt on this team? The defense. With all due respect to Dre Greenlaw, who we know can't be out there right now, and a getting better Talanoa Hufanga, who can't be out there right now. Maybe it does come back this week. But this is on Nick Bosa and Fred Warner and Mooney Ward. And if I'm Kyle Shanahan, I am looking at the Rams. I'm looking at their offense. I'm looking at what they got, and I'm looking at how one-dimensional they are. And I'm looking at the fact that they're going to be looking at a silent count on their own home field, because SoFi Stadium might as well be Candlestick South. So feel good about that. And I'm walking up to Brandon Staley and Nick Sorensen, and I'm saying, not a tick over 17 points. You keep these guys under 17 points, and you do it this week, and then you come back and you do that next week against the New England Patriots. But that's the magic fucking number. No score starts with a 2 in the next 2 weeks, and it's up to you guys to get us through the Debo McCaffrey absence. It's up to this defense to play a level of football and stop being the forgotten man. And Hargrave, do something. Malik Collins, you are the best defensive tackle on this team. Keep it up. Somebody else, Jordan Elliott, do something. Bosa, another sack this week, please. Another turnover, Fred Warner, please. Travarius Ward, you need a better game, and you need one right now because you just played your worst game as a Niner last week in Minnesota. No Cooper Kupp, no Puka Nacua. We got this, and we got this because we got a good defense. You boys get us through this. It's up to you. That's the way I'm looking at this. It's not who is going to make 3 catches that Debo would have made. It's
let me
on third down.
Let me show you one thing that I agree with all of that, by the way. Let me show you what I think was the real problem in the loss. I'm going to share the screen on 2 plays here. 2 plays I want to show you. Okay. This first one is the touchdown, the Naylor touchdown. Okay. So he's down here on the bottom, right? And that's Mooney Ward right there. So everything looks good, and then he moves inside.
You'll see the confusion.
Yeah, he moves inside, and then he moves in the C gap inside the tight end, and look at the confusion that it presents for the Niners. So he moves in. Okay, now Jair comes up. Now he moves inside the tight end, and these guys don't know who's got who.
Right.
And there's two guys there. You got the tight end releasing into the flat, and you got the receiver Naylor going to the corner. Okay, so what is the more pressing issue? It's the fucking guy in the corner. The guy in the corner's in the end zone. The guy in the flat is short of the end zone. And watch the way this goes. These guys both take the guy in the flat. Nobody takes Naylor, and Darnold just goes hoop boop. That's way too fucking easy, man. That's way too fucking easy. And that's terrible communication. There's this exact same play, and you can see the confusion. Mooney, toast, burnt. Thanks for coming. So that was that right there. This kind of communication breakdown is really why they lost this game. They gave up a touchdown on a communication breakdown. Okay, that's one. Okay, that's that one. Now I'm going to show you this one because this was the game. This is the final drive, the first third down on the final drive. And I'll bring it back here.
This isn't the laser beam back shoulder to Naylor, is it?
No, this is the bunch up top. What you're gonna see is a bunch up top. It's a 3-by-1 bunch. So you got 3 up top, you got 1 on the bottom. You got the offset back, and you got Darnold out of the shotgun. And you got the Niners technically looking really good up top here, Damon, because they got their 3 best coverage guys. Those 3 Niners up here are Renardo Green, Demo Lenore, and Charvarius Ward. You could make an argument that Green, Lenore, and Ward are their 3 best cover guys. They're all right here. This is a 3rd and 7. Okay. 3rd and 7. The line of scrimmage is the 33-yard line. So basically it's the 40.
You're playing to the 40.
Okay. Now watch this. This is the game on the line, man. This is if you make this play, you have 9.5 minutes left. You're down 6. Here it is. They get to a little bunch. Confusion. Nobody goes. Renardo Green gets 5 yards back. Mooney's like sitting there. Now you can see Mooney on the back end here. This is the end zone version. You can't see the bunch, but you'll see Mooney at the end here, very frustrated. Too fucking easy.
Great ball by Darnold. It really is.
It was a great ball by Darnold, and it was a great call because you got a bunch, and basically it was almost like they ran a pick, but Renardo Green's got to get up on that guy. You got to know first of all, you play, I don't care if you're coaching high school football, college football, or pro football. If you're a defensive back and you're walking to the line of scrimmage, you have to be saying to yourself on every goddamn snap, down and distance, down and distance. That tells you how you need to play more so than the call, more so than the matchup, down and distance, especially in the fourth quarter in a 1-score game where a first down could be the end of the game. Down and distance. This was a 3rd and 7, and you got to get off the field on 3rd and 7. Instead, they're not within 5 yards of Powell, and he has the easiest catch of the day. And this was the ball game. After this, it was done. I mean, everything else after this was, I kind of think was done. The back shoulder that you described was an awesome throw by Darnold. But that right there, 2 major miscommunications, one on a 3rd down, the other on a touchdown. And, Nick Sorensen's going to have to answer for that on Thursday. It's like, hey, this is your defense. Obviously that wasn't what you wanted. It's got to be better. It's got to be better. We can blame Shanahan. We can blame Purdy. I'm not saying they're not without blame. They are with it. It's totally reasonable to blame these guys.
Right.
But
people see what they want to see too, Larry. I mean, I had a guy, I had someone in the comments say, first of all, Brock Purdy threw 2 interceptions and he stares guys down. Okay, first of all, Brock Purdy threw 1 interception. The other turnover was a fumble, a bad fumble, but it was not an interception. And the interception that he did throw was a tip drill where you could have played yakety sax And it was not a result of staring anyone down. It was hands in the air, ball in the air, look out, everybody. So, people see what they want to see. I think a lot of people are predisposed and they sit down, and the minute that the Niners are struggling, they're like, ooh, I can fire up the Kyle and Brock criticism machine today, and I can really get Twitter angry. And this is what some people do for a living. We are not those people. We're actually trying to talk about the football game that's happening, not the football game we wish would create good content for us.
Well, I'm not. We don't demand everybody to be like us. You have your own take, whatever. That's great. Everybody can have their own.
In reality, right? Like, base it in reality.
I tweeted this. I tweeted this, Damon, about Brock. I said last week against the Vikings was not his best game. Right? Full acknowledgement. 2 turnovers. Took 6 sacks, converted 20% of the thirds. These all are on Brock to some degree. Held the ball. To me, the biggest thing that he did wrong, Damon, he held the ball too long on a couple of downs. But it wasn't this incredibly awful performance people have talked about. Once again, he was one of 3 quarterbacks to throw for 300 yards. He was one of 6 quarterbacks to complete over 75% of his passes. He was one of 2 quarterbacks to do both. And then you add in the fact he's on the road against Brian Flores' defense, which is a blitz-heavy scheme and a zone-heavy scheme, which anybody who knows quarterback knows the mindset is totally different at the line of scrimmage. Then you take away CMC, you have a 50% or 70% Brandon Ayuk. It wasn't Purdy's A game, but my goodness, what are we talking about here? We're still talking about a guy who threw for 320 yards and completed 78% of his passes. I mean, come on. I mean, if that's his bad day, I mean, I'll take that. I'll take that. 319 and 78%, I'll take.
What I think we also have here is a group of fans who only watch the 49ers, are unaware of what is going on in the rest of the league, and only compare Brock Purdy to Patrick Mahomes, which is like only comparing your Honda Civic to a Lamborghini. Not that Brock is a Honda Civic, but
I mean, there are people screaming, "Yeah, he didn't do it." It's like, come on, man. I mean, what are you talking about?
Look at passing, look at touchdowns, look at quarterback play around this league right now. It is bottomed out after like a 6-year run of it getting better through 2 weeks. It is bottoming out. Their defenses are on to quarterbacks. Defenses have caught up to offensive genius, and it is harder and harder to move this ball in this league right now. Plus, you've got the fact the first 4 weeks, I think, are full of false positives and negatives that aren't as negative as you think they are. I think every single team in football now uses the first 4 weeks of the regular season to really tune it up, and then we'll start to know what's going on. And obviously, look, Brock Purdy has not been off to a great start this year. His protection.
Wait a second. Wait. Time out. He's leading the league in yardage.
He's leading the league in passing yardage in his not great start, which means even as he's struggling, he's still doing better than most, which is good. And you know who else is struggling? His running back, who hasn't played a single snap this year, his held out all offseason wide receiver who has a grand total of 6 catches for 71 yards that are full of yawns. And Trent Williams had a bad game. And let's say it, Dominic Puni, who we were giving a lot of praise to after that Monday night game, Dominic Puni did not have a good sophomore game against the Minnesota Vikings. We'll criticize it when it happens. We'll offer the praise, and we'll give the criticism when it's happening. But the Niners are 1-1. They're not 0-6. So people need to calm down just a little bit.
Well, and also, okay, I can't watch a goddamn Giants game without hearing the post-game rap, them touting whatever pitcher tonight shut their ass down. I can't. Hey, I'll tell you, Smoothie. Hey, I'll tell you, Smoothie. Hey, you got to tip your cap. Donkerson really had it tonight. Hey, Smoothie. Hey.
The donker.
What the hell? You got to tip your cap. The Brewers' 5th starter, man, he was dealing tonight, Smoothie. You got to tip your cap. Hey, it's a bunch of bullshit, all right? And we listen to that every single day. But there is a time when it's appropriate to acknowledge that your opponent is really, really good. And to me, like, I'm much more upset with Hargrave and Collins than I am with Purdy. Why? Because Purdy's on the road. Purdy is, without CMC, really without a complete Ayuk, because Ayuk is not the same guy. And he played all right against a really high-powered defense where they're blitzing you and you've got to pick up hot reads, and then they're dropping 8 and you got to find tiny little spots in zones, and they're alternately doing that on every single snap. I think Purdy had one of the most difficult challenges of the week, which is why he went up to Flores in the postgame. It's like, man, your scheme's crazy, because he's basically paying him respect, saying, hey, man, your scheme was a challenge for me this week. That's Brock saying, hey, Brian Flores, incredible job. So I look at Hargrave and Collins and the guys that they were going up, against, and it was like they're going up against Brandell and Bradbury and Ingram, 3 guys who had gotten dominated by Dexter Lawrence the week before. So, and they absolutely were non-factors. Right. Hargrave and Collins, nothing, zero sacks, 0 pressures. I don't think either of them made that many plays. So that is, to me, far more egregious than Brock didn't make plays against Flores. Brock was challenged against Flores, and he wasn't great, but he was okay. Those guys were going against weak competition, and they were terrible. So I blame them. I really do.
It's a cavalcade of freaking comedic things happening when this team's on special teams, and it doesn't stop. I mean, it just does not stop. Hopefully, one of the things that doesn't keep the Rams in a game that they shouldn't probably be in is a special teams error. And I'm worried about it. Again, the 49ers have made the art of just fielding a punt this Herculean task that every other team just blows through like it's not even a big deal. They don't even worry about it. They just get your worst wide receiver, the guy that you're least worried about getting hurt in a dangerous play. Have him do it. That's how every other team in football basically handles kickoffs and punt returns. For the 49ers, it's like some sort of trigonometry that they just can't find the right protractor to figure out. It's ridiculous how difficult they make an otherwise everyone else does it pretty easily task. So criticize them for that. Criticize, hey, when Brock has a bad game, and a bad game's coming, no doubt about it. It always happens. Save it for then. But to just criticize blindly because you have an allegiance to just keeping this storyline that something is wrong with Kyle and nothing with the 49ers will be right until Kyle's gone. You know, this damn guy keeps losing Super Bowls is a pretty good complaint about to have a head coach. Because most people complain, this guy can't even reach a Super Bowl. That's most fan bases. We can't even get to the playoffs, much less lose a Super Bowl. My guy keeps losing Super Bowls. It's not something you want to say, but it's also about as good of a bad complaint as you can have about a coach.
Well, think of it critically. I mean, if you rip the offensive line, you get X number of clicks. If you rip the quarterback, you get a whole lot more. Sure. If you rip the head coach, you get a whole lot more. You know, it's just it's people that are doing this for money, and they're not doing this for the love of this or for any kind of journalistic credibility. It's all about the clicks. If you're all about the money, then yeah, I'd park my car at the corner of Purdy and Shanahan every single day and just it's all about the money. It's all about the clicks. Why have a take on Collins and Hargrave when you can have a take on Shanahan and Purdy if it's all about the money? If it's all about, hey man, I did 3 videos and a live stream today and I made X. If that's what it's all about at the end of the day, then you're serving your master. If you're all about money, I mean, we're all, money makes the world go around. We're all doing everything for money. It's hilarious. We had the people the other day who were mad at me because I threw an ad on my YouTube channel like I always do for every single video that I do, because it was tied to Ricky Pearsall and that Ricky Pearsall update. And it was like, oh my God, Krug, oh my God, there's an advertisement. It's like, what are you, fucking an idiot? You must be the world's biggest fucking idiot. Have you ever, I don't care if you watch MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, or local news, guess what they all fucking have? Commercials.
Right.
When they're telling you about the storm, they're running a commercial. When they're telling you about the person who got raped, there's a commercial. When CNN is telling you, when KPIX is telling you, when KTVU is telling you, there's a fucking commercial. If you listen to KCBS, there's fucking commercials. But it's really offensive if you say, oh, you know what? Welcome to the Krug Show, and this is our sponsor, and this happened to Ricky Pearsall. All of a sudden, it's like, oh my God, you have a commercial, and I'm never going to listen to you again. I'm never going to watch. Are you never going to watch news again? Because that's what news is. What do you think TV news is? What do you think radio news is? You think those people are doing this for the love of the medium, and they're making money. They're making money. So it's just maybe you don't hear it, or maybe it's like if I had not said the sponsor, if you just had a YouTube sponsor embedded in the commercial, maybe you wouldn't have screamed at me. But all these people screaming at me, I'm like, every person on YouTube. Do you think Dave Lombardi turned off the commercials when he reported on going to Ricky Pearsall's, the attacker's arraignment? Do you think he turned off the advertising on his YouTube channel? No, he didn't.
Larry,
everybody's making money.
Let me absolve you of your non-sins. But let me absolve
I'm just telling you. It's like, I know it doesn't look good, but guess what? It's all, that's what this is. That's what the whole thing is.
I'm going to make it all better. I'm going to make it all better.
Spidey says deep breaths.
Uncle Damon is here to make it all better. All you need to do, Larry, the next time anybody criticizes you or me or anyone for this, just let them know that as Damar Hamlin was being resuscitated back to life during an NFL game, they went to commercial.
Right. Pay the bills.
They went to commercial. There's a guy here who's dying. This is a literal traumatic on-field happening. Should we watch them try to bring this man back to life? Or should we let you know that DraftKings is offering a special right now that if you go 2 for 1, they went to DraftKings commercial.
Right.
So that's what this is, kids.
So the whole world is grossly insensitive.
It is. We're all grossly insensitive. Speaking of commercials, Larry, show me some Chipino. Just show me some Chipino right here. Speaking of commercials, let me show you what a good commercial looks like. Look at that. The blue sky, the blue water. What's bluer? Look at that. Oh, my goodness. There's the army that will bring you the following things. The lobster roll. Oh, Larry, look at that. Everybody's got their assignments right there in that bowl of paella. No confusion in that bowl of Cioppino. Look at all of that and look at that view. Get yourself to Sam's Chowder House. And if that is a commercial that offends you, we can't be friends.
Everyone's worst nightmare. Money ain't that important. It's actually the devil. Health is the only important thing.
Yeah, try to pay your mortgage with health. The bank sent me my mortgage, and I wrote down on the banknote my blood pressure, and they were like, "Oh, cool, that's great. Thank you for what 182 over 90. Oh, you're in."
That rant was brought to you by Sam's Chowder House. Thank you.
That's right, Larry. Let's go. Let's see what some of these supers are doing. We buried them.
Yeah, we got a bunch here.
End of the show. Let's have a bunch. Let's
all right.
Get into it.
Fuji Simeon 13. Do you think Farhan Zaidi gets fired? Thoughts on the Ramos splash hit ball dispute with McCovey Cove Dave? Should the Giants try to extend Snell? Love the show. All right.
I want McCovey Cove Dave to be put in charge of the entire franchise. Fuck everyone else.
Okay. First of all, the Giants are minting money. That doesn't make them evil, but that does mean that they should never complain about anything financial ever again. Okay? So they're minting money. They bought the team. They built their own ballpark. They took a considerable risk to do so. Huge loans, but it's all paid off. And it's now 2024. That was 2020. By 2007, they had paid off the park. They have been living in a home that they've owned with no mortgage for decades, almost 2 decades now. And so they're rich. And every penny that goes, every churro, every program, every cha-cha bowl, everything, pure profit. They're making a ton of money. They own tons of real estate south of the ballpark. They're going to own their ancestors. The descendants of Giants owners are going to be wealthy beyond belief for generations to come. Okay. So don't tell me that McCovey Dave asked for too much money for the Elliot Ramos home run ball. Okay. I mean, something tells me he probably didn't. And now I don't know this McCovey Cove Dave, and he sounds like kind of a piece of work. And I'm not saying just he can call his price, but don't complain about what you have to pay McCovey Cove Dave. You got to be kidding me. Either shut the hell up about that ball or pay him whatever he wants, as long as it's somewhat reasonable. And it probably is. I mean, what does the guy want? A couple grand? Fine. Give him a couple grand. You're minting money. Stop complaining about money. God, that looks so bad. I mean, do you want somebody to come out of their house on Pacific and Laurel in the middle of Pacific Heights and start complaining about money? Because that's the Giants right now.
Yeah,
if the Giants walked out of their house, start complaining about money, they would be the richest person on your block who owns their house outright and has all kinds of vehicles and toys, standing in front of their house bitching about money when they're minting money.
You are standing on a lawn in front of your mansion with your Lamborghini in the driveway, and you're complaining about how much you got to pay the guy to mow your lawn.
Right.
Screw you. All right.
Yeah.
Enough Giants
so
talk.
That's that. And then as far as do I think he'll get fired?
No.
I hope he'll get fired. And let me just say this. I want to call up my friend here, Marty Lurie.
He's going to get one more year, Larry. They're going to give him a show it to us year.
Really?
I feel like it. I think they're going to get one more year out of Farhan.
Marty tweeted this out today.
What's Marty?
There it is.
Oh, here we go.
He says, folks are making a big deal about how the Giants play over these final series. Somehow it will determine Farhan's fate. Not so. That decision has already been made by ownership. Information is being leaked to the media. Something will change in the front office. We will know what on October the 1st. So give me decipher that, Damon.
Yeah, I think they're going to bring him back. I think they're going to bring him back on double secret appropriation, and I think they're going to say to Bob Melvin and Farhan, something needs to happen in 2025 that'll be better in 2020 than it was in 2024. I don't think either guy's going anywhere.
I personally would get rid of Farhan at this point, just because you have enough money to pay him off. You have enough money. Yeah, you're probably going to have to get rid of Melvin, but Melvin was ineffective this year. He was ineffective last year with the Padres. The Padres got rid of him. They're better this year for it. He was ineffective this year with the Giants. They're not going to finish 500. It was roughly a 500 roster, so he underachieved. So, if you get rid of Farhan, you're probably getting rid of Melvin, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with getting rid of Farhan and Melvin. I would go with regime change here, and I would go with, I personally think Ned Colletti would be a fantastic hire, but I would go with the Baltimore Orioles GM, and I would as I said, the Giants are super rich. Go to Mike Elias, the GM of the Orioles, who's built them into a great farm system, and just whatever he's making, just give him way more. Give him way more. You're the Giants. You're an iconic franchise. As I said, you're rich as hell. You made $525 million last year. You can pay this guy double his salary. What's he make? 5? Give him 10.
Most important thing right there.
7? Give him 15.
100 people have already left during this conversation. That's who the Giants are. That's who the Giants are. Let's move on. What else we got in the super
there
chats?
You go. That is fair. Big Dog says, didn't the Vikings just whoop us in the second half with no weapons? I wouldn't be so cocky yet with Stafford out there. Oh, I'm not cocky other than the Rams the Rams in week 1 gave up 5.3 a carry. The Rams in week 2 gave up 5.8 a carry. The 49ers should be able to just run over the Rams. Just run over them. I mean, literally run over them.
And the Rams have the second worst rushing attack in football right now. They're unbalanced. I think you can sit back, play zone. And, well, I don't even know if you're playing zone because I don't know if they got the man-to-man to beat you without Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua.
They got Tutu.
Unless Tutu Atwell goes freaking bonkers
runs right by you all day.
This game? How are you losing this game?
The only way you lose this game is if you're -2 on the turnovers, Kyron Williams runs for 100 yards, and Tutu Atwell burns you deep twice. But after watching the Niners line up against 4-4 Justin Jefferson with George Odom and Jair Brown, I don't put anything past them to have the wrong alignment against Tutu. So we'll see how it goes. Moncreen Eggcorn says, deploy the roster, Cowing, running back depth, Winters, Mustafa, etc. Tired of Shanahan holding back the depth and spreading the load. Yeah, I agree with Moncreen Eggcorn here. The Niners used way too much of McCaffrey last year and not enough of Mason. Should have been a little bit more of a split. It wasn't. Use your roster. If you're going to have Cowing on the roster, use him. If you're going to have Garendo on the roster, figure out a way to use him. If you're going to have Mustafa, use him. I agree. Spread the hits around.
It shouldn't take injuries to feel a little depth of this depth chart. But here you are. So,
yeah,
now there's no choice.
Fuji Simeon 13 drops $19.99. He gets the orange. I like the orange. It's a good-looking thing. He says, had dinner with friends, and most were SI alums. So, of course, they sing their alma mater fight song. Not me. I'm a Reardon alum. The table next to us were upset only because they were SH alum. Larry, do you remember the SI fight song?
Oh, do you remember your
red and blue will all be true. We'll wave our banners to the sky. Oh, red and blue will fight for you. We'll fight for St. Ignatius High, and victory will be our goal, and we will reach it if we try. So we're gonna fight. We're gonna fight. We're gonna fight.
Does he remember it? Oh, my God. You remember that perfectly. By the way, if you don't mind me saying, I won't sing it to you because Joe Buck had the Indiana fight song on Monday Night Football, gave Sirianni, or no, excuse me, he gave a Troy Aikman a little ribbing after the Hoosiers beat his UCLA Bruins, and gave a shout out to Coach Signetti. So Indiana football making Monday Night Football. These are
not beat them, smoked them. I mean, it was like a cheap cigar. Who is the big receiver for Indiana?
Elijah Surratt, Surratt.
That guy. I mean, Indiana's got some ball players. Mm-hmm. I was surprised. I watched a little bit of that game just because I knew you were going to be down there, and I was like, "Oh, it's 4:30. It's the window. There's not a lot going on." It was a 3:30, right? 3:30 or 4:30?
4:30.
What time? 3:30. Yeah, 4:30. Yeah. So it wasn't the packed window. I watched about a quarter of that one before we left for Cal San Diego State, and it looked like Indiana was just going to dominate. And sure enough, they got the win, and it was convincing. Greg Argisi, guys, how about getting Jet McKinnon with Mason in the backfield? Jet checkdowns until CMC comes back. Our defensive coordinator needs to get better. My name is RJZ. My name is RJZ. Am I missing something there? What am I? I'm not sure what he's. Do you get that? Or well, first of all, McKinnon is a street free agent. Kareem Hunt just signed with the Chiefs, so you can't get Kareem Hunt. The guy that, if you're going for street free agents, isn't Touchdown Lenny out there? I would like Leonard Fournette if I'm going to just go off the street. I think I'd like Leonard Fournette a little bit more than Matt Breida, to be honest, because I like Leonard Fournette catching it out of the backfield. G. San says 2 guys need to play this week. Terrace Marshall needs to be activated from the practice squad. He already knows how to play in the NFL. He ran 4.38, and Jacob Cowing, another 4.38 wide receiver. I'd be in favor of both of those. I mean, especially, come on, man. Terrace Marshall runs 4.38 and is an NFL receiver. He needs to be up over Ronnie Bell. Okay? I mean, I like Ronnie Bell, but come on. I mean, I'm not sure if you agree with me or not, but Damon, I really think Terrace Marshall and Cowing do provide some speed, could give them some separation ability. I'm all for those guys getting in there. And we got this one from, now this one, he's busting me for pronouncing. He says he says God morning, but I'm sure he means good. Good morning, fellas. Larry, you are killing me pronouncing my last name. You have to roll the R and end with yo. So Angel Murillo.
Thank you.
Anyways, everybody like and subscribe. I just wish my girlfriend would look at me the way Larry looks at Tanner Mordecai. Now that is funny.
We all wish. We all wish.
Sorry for not being able to roll my R's. All right, David E. Larry, considering your assessment of Guarendo's lack of running back instincts, do you think the Niners made a mistake trading the entire 5th round pick to get him? Possibly. I think they fell in love before the draft with Guarendo's size and speed. We'll see.
It's amazing how well Kyle does with the running back he ends up with, and how poorly Kyle does with the running back he drafts.
And then they cut the running back he ended up with in Schrader, who's now a Ram. So right. I think you're absolutely right. Look at Trey Sermon. Look at the Elijah Mitchell. Look at the pass. Look at Joe Williams. Look at Raheem Mostert. I mean, yeah, you're right. Bobby L says Larry and Damon are the shit. Or is it most realistic takes?
Thank you, Bob.
Mike Baker says you two really need to learn to speak your mind. Yeah, exactly. Excessive 03, bring back Tom Sula so I don't have to watch again. Blood Moon, Brendel was awful, just brutal. Done with Jake. Get Nugent in there ASAP. Kyle needs to let Brock Purdy take more of the reins. Also, is Brock Purdy trying too hard? Hero ball. No, but you know what Brock Purdy needs to do is take the check down. Be more patient. Keep your offense on the field. Stop driving the ball relentlessly down the field. Everybody says he's dink and dunk. That was the worst take of all time. He's really more like Brett Favre. He takes tons and tons and tons of risks. He needs to take fewer risks and check it down a little bit more. That's what I would say.
And look, Nugent might be on the way, but Minnesota would probably have been the wrong team to really throw him out there, because Flores was just way too exotic up front to just throw him into that situation. But
yeah,
Larry, give me an update on Feliciano. When might he be back in the picture?
Well, he's on IR, designated to return, and I would say he's probably going to be back in week 5 or 6.
Okay.
And I think he could plug in at center. He absolutely could. Speaking of Barry Ford, so speaking of money, drop this in the Sam's Chowder House cocktail jar for me.
Thank you very much, Barry.
Very, very cool.
Barry was wondering about my headsets too. What are these? He wants to know. These are just
those are
Studios. I don't even know the brand.
It's
AKG.
on the top.
They're old.
Yeah, those are professional cans.
Yeah.
Anthony says, Larry, ask Kyle, check down guy considering. Greg Argisi. My last name is pronounced RJZ. Oh, I got you.
Greg.
Love the show, dudes.
Argisi. Greg Argisi. There we go.
Argisi.
Now we get it. Sorry, we're a little slow.
But it would be Argisi. It's actually Arjayzi. Greg Arjayzi.
Arjayzi. Okay.
Arjayzi. It's kind of the same with the Italian sausage. That's Calabrese. It's Argayzi. It's Arjayzi. Yes, Arjayzi. Greg Arjayzi. All right. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate you. That's going to do it for us, Damon. You know what? An hour and 34 minutes in, and it's time for us to run for the door.
Hey,
but
Larry, you're going down in the Miata today. You're going to ask Kyle all the nasty questions. You're very angry, Larry. You can calm down a little bit. Why don't you be nicer, Larry?
I'm going to go in there, and I'm just going to say, I'm a football guy. And as a football guy, I thought Collins and Hargrave weren't very good at football. You know what I'm saying? As a football guy.
Have a great day, everybody. Peace.